really going to be a quick. Hi, Don. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our work session. And it happens to be on the first day of school. We hope that everybody enjoyed their first day of school. Without further ado, we really don't have much on our agenda. We have a couple of agenda items as far as discussion items. So we will be doing that. So for the first order of business, I think maybe we'll turn to you, Jim.
Sure.
Please take us through superintendent conference days that we had,
Okay.
and then the opening of school.
Sure, absolutely. So a couple of weeks ago, we made a last minute decision. We moved the calendar around. We had 3 superintendent's conference days before school. And it really gave us an opportunity. We had been planning all summer with all of our committees, subcommittees, but at that point in time, we hadn't had the entire teaching staff in. And there was a lot to go over prior to the start of school. So we had a 3rd superintendent's conference day before school. And so that was last Tuesday. We had the first one, and that was what we did all of our meetings virtually, but we did have the teachers on site because we wanted the teachers to get used to their classroom, be able to move some things around, mark up what needed to move. Getting the schools ready was a really daunting task, and we needed everybody's eyes, and we needed everybody's knowledge, and we wanted the teachers to be comfortable coming back into the classroom. So we thought that was an important first step of getting everybody into the building. Teachers, they sat through their meetings virtually in their classrooms, and then from there they had some time in their classrooms to move something around. We came back on Wednesday, Thursday. From there, we were really doing a lot of curriculum work, a lot of IT work, a lot of IT training. Jay and his team, they set up a lot of training with the webcams, with Screencastify. That's going to be a bulk of our, the virtual moving forward is and Jay, correct me if I got it wrong, but we're doing a combination of, when we record our lessons, a Screencastify with an embedded video of the teacher teaching. So the students that are learning virtually will see what's on the smartboard, and then a small embedded video of the teacher teaching. And it won't be the students, it'll be almost like a side view of the teacher, but the screen itself. And it's not a video of the screen, it's casting of the smartboard screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's kind of the method that we're doing. The teachers, they're going to be recording lessons, they're going to be pre-recording lessons, they're going to be recording lessons on their own. We've had teachers volunteer to record other lessons on their own for their department. So it was a good opportunity for them to get in there for 3 days and really kind of get to it. It was an opportunity for the principals to meet with their staff and go over, and it was teachers and TAs on days 2 and 3, an opportunity to go over what the temperature check process looks like, what the new entrance process looks like, what the lunch process looks like. For those of you that maybe haven't seen anything, on the news, it's things are a little bit different. So in the elementary schools, the kids are eating in their classrooms, but at the secondary levels, we have student desks in there. They're 6 feet apart. They're all facing the same direction. So that, it was important for the staff to see that. It was important for the staff to understand the temperature checks. And we have bus drop-off points. We have car drop-off points, and we have walker entrance points. So we had to have staff at each entrance. We had to have them trained on how to use the touchless thermometers. We needed to train the staff on using the spray bottles in the rooms and wiping down the desks, and we needed to train them. They had to watch videos on understanding the signs of COVID, and a lot of new trainings. Then on top of it, there's annual trainings that have to occur. There's a sexual harassment component, a DASA component. We had them watch. They went through a couple of mini courses on our safe schools on diversity in the workplace, diversity in schools. So we tried to hit all areas. And then from there, we gave the staff, some time in their classrooms where they could work with either their co-teacher or themselves and really get their classroom ready to open. And I was walking around the elementary school. They really did a nice job, making the classes welcoming. They have a desk paired up with a side desk, and that's where the kids' supplies are. And they put individual baskets on the student desks for them. So when you walk by the elementary rooms, it might look like there's 2 desks together, but it's really the student desk, and then the supply desk for that individual student. So they did a nice job. And then same thing at the high school. The high school, pretty much all the furniture is out. There's tape down the hallways at the high school. So you have, it almost looks like a road now. You have a tape down the middle, of the yellow tape down the middle with arrows, so they have to stay to the right. It looks different, you know, so we have dedicated up stairwells, dedicated down stairwells, so we're trying to limit students walking by each other like this. They might all be walking in the same direction, but we're trying to avoid the close contact of students walking head to head, head on and facing each other. So that it was a great 3 days, and I think that this staff, I really appreciate, the administrative team, the teaching staff, the TAs, they really jumped in, and they kind of took ownership, and they made sure that we were ready for today. We opened the buildings again on Friday. A lot of staff came in on their own. Teachers, TAs, I had, in every building, we had people on site getting an extra day in. I was at the high school this morning for their arrival, Robert Frost, JFK, and I went to Maymore, and Margie and Alicia went to JQA. And when I tell you the amount of staff on hand to help, it was, temperature checks, and the longest line was the cars. So the buses were light, the cars were long, and that was probably the longest process. We had a few walkers, but the line of cars at each building for the drop-offs was the longest. So we're taking temperatures before they get out of the car. We're taking temperatures as the kids get off the bus. And then as you get the kids into the building, you have your typical first day issues on top of the COVID issues. Who needs a new copy of the schedule, who wants a schedule change. So that was a little bit of a challenge, making sure kids lined up in socially distanced fashion, and in doing that, so I feel as though for a day one of what we were heading into, that part was a success. Couple of things that we're working on cleaning up is the virtual aspect of it. So I was talking to Jay and his team. We have at this point in time distributed over about 1,000 Chromebooks, and as a district, we're almost out. We ordered 4 grade levels of Chromebooks, and some of those grade levels were ordered back in June. We're still waiting on them, and we're not the only district in that boat. For whatever reason, the manufacturer can't keep up with the demand, so that's a bit of a sticking point for us right now. So Jay and I were talking about some solutions, but when we placed this order back in June, and then so that was a grade level, and then we had when the budget flipped over into July, we placed the order for the other 3. We kind of assumed that we'd have this stuff here, and we don't. So Jay and I are talking about some alternatives and figuring out what the heck we could do with that. But that's about 1,200 Chromebooks. Was that the total number? 1,200? 1,500 Chromebooks that we thought we'd have in our possession that we don't, and the money's been allocated. So that's a little bit of that's a bit of an issue. I think we're right up until this morning. We were getting requests. We've tried to really. Some districts held firm and said, no changes once you're committed. We've been trying to honor as many parent requests as we can. Some get more nervous and they want to pull their kids and go to virtual. Some feel more comfortable and want to switch from virtual to live. And we right up until this morning, we were trying to honor those requests. I think the principals did a really nice job. We're trying to make as many people feel comfortable with this reopening as possible. But from a standpoint of a first day of school, and I think the angst that today brought, I would say the in-person version was a smashing success in terms of getting the kids in safely, in terms of keeping them safely, socially distant. I watched the staff from Tuesday on. There was a lot of nerves. There was a lot of people very nervous about what we were walking into, whether we could pull it off, whether we couldn't pull it off.
Yeah,
By the end of Tuesday, I think some of that started to kind of change. By Wednesday, a lot more positivity kind of kicked in. By Thursday, I think a lot more people were, yeah, we can make this work. And then when you start talking about the hybrid model and the fact that there's just not as many kids as a normal day coming in, and then when you see it in action, with everybody really chipping in, it did make the day successful. Karen and her team, I mean, there were a couple of bus glitches, but I mean, they really created 3 bus runs, is what they did. They had a bus run for, if we're all in, they had a bus run for just the gray, a bus run for the maroon. So there's a lot of variables that everybody's trying to prepare for. And as a district, the good position that we're in is that we're ready for either swing. We can absorb, especially at the middle school and the high school, we can absorb as kids come back in, and we can absorb, if God forbid we have to go full virtual. The hardest part right now that we're trying to kind of settle in is the combination of kids on hybrid, kids on full virtual, and the teachers. I think by next week, that's going to look very different than it looks right now. Teachers have done a really nice job. I think they all pretty much made their welcome back videos and posted them. Everybody's got, we did Google Classroom training for everybody, even though we already had Google Classroom. I give our staff a lot of credit, top to bottom. They're in it, and I see a lot of articles and things going on. And, right now, at least in our district, we're all moving in the same direction. I think everybody walked out of here today. I got a nice email from a teacher saying it was a good first day. Now we're in, tweak it mode. Now it's I think the staff got over the hump of the wondering if this can be done. And I think last week they were overwhelmed with I got kids virtual, I got kids hybrid, I got kids in school. It's a lot, and to do that well. And when the teachers really, when they love what they do and they really value what they do, it's a lot to ask them. And I think that you're going to see it as the days go on. It's just going to get better. And we're
I'm going to tell you, God bless the staff. 99.9% are on board with us and trying to help these kids through it.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot for this district. So this staff, what an incredible job they're doing, just to know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunately, we're used to stepping into school and saying, okay, this is our product, here we go. And that's not the case this year. I think our product in a week is going to look very different than our product does today. And our product in 2 weeks is going to look significantly different. I think that, Jay, you were in the trainings. I think the teachers were absorbing it. They're practicing it on their own. I know that many of them spent their Labor Day weekend working and trying to get this right and trying to figure this out. And, so I'm optimistic after today that the in-person, that we can do this. And then from a community standpoint, the kids were fantastic today. So the kids were unbelievable from the moment, they got off the bus at the high school. Certainly there was a fear of mask compliance, and I'm telling you, these kids, they wanted to be in school. They couldn't have been more polite. They couldn't have been more, I think, appreciative to be in the building. I saw kids, and it's hard for kids because we didn't have the live freshman orientation. So you have freshmen who are lost. You can't see their face. And so you're relying on, asking, if they need help finding a room. Every kid, one kid after the other, thank you so much, have a nice day. I think they were just appreciative to be there. So it was good to have, and then same thing in the middle school. We had kids, certainly 6th graders are nervous. It's hard to go into a building when you haven't had that traditional, we normally have, going into 6th grade, we normally have the 5th graders over at least twice. We have them over coming from JFK, we have a night event, and then here they are walking into a building where everybody's wearing a mask. And the Robert Frost faculty stepped up, but the kids were, I'm telling you, the kids couldn't have been more, I hate to use the word compliant because it's not the word of, they were happy to be here and they were willing to do what they needed to make this work.
The ones who came or the ones who
They were
wanted to
respectful,
come?
Yeah, they were
courteous,
very
and
respectful.
That's why.
It was clear that the parents had conversations with their kids of what was expected.
bravo.
So it was nice. And I think tomorrow will be better. Unlike any year past, we have a new first day of school on Thursday. We're gonna hold it.
That's right, that's right.
Deja vu.
So normally Thursday is day 3, it's day 1, number 2. So we got the whole, the same problems that we had today, I anticipate. I anticipate a couple of bus issues. And I think it's important that one of the things that, what I wrote on Friday to the community is this is the year of there is no such thing as a final decision. What you see now and what you see today is not what you're going to see in 2 weeks. We have buy-in, the administrators are all in, the teachers are all in, the TAs are all in, the clerk, everybody. If I could tell you the hours that Karen Camadeo put in transportation, for her to, so much went right, to focus on a handful of things that went wrong would not
do that
to
justice.
the amount.
Yeah.
And
The
every
amount of
year, there's
hours.
always a bus hiccup.
Of course there are.
Every year,
Of course there are.
you know.
Right, and it wasn't.
In a normal
anything out of
year.
the ordinary.
Right.
Nope.
That's
Right,
it.
really
So
was.
it's just, her and her
Bravo,
staff,
bravo.
what her and her staff pulled off is amazing. The nurses, I went to all the nurses stations, they're all comfortable with what they're doing. A couple of other big things that just are shocking, the upstairs weight room at the high school is not there right now. That's the isolation room. So that's in essence like a big open nurses station. So there's a lot of, weird things that look less than traditional at the buildings, but I think it's important that the staff feels comfortable that our plan is solid, and I think then that helps and allows them to be comfortable to move forward and help us with the kids. It was nice because there's always going to be hiccups on day 1. There was more hiccups today, but everybody was moving in the same direction. Like nobody's there saying this is not going to work and see what I said. They're all chipping in, making it work. And like I said, it was clear that the parents had conversations with their kids. The kids couldn't have been more happy to be in the buildings, and I think it's just going to continue to get better. I hope this lasts. So
I hope so.
Good.
yeah,
Great.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
yeah, sure can.
So I'm glad, it sounds like it really went well.
Yep.
And like you said a couple of times, for the in-person as
Yes.
well. So, in the junior high, please girl, in middle school and
Yep.
high school, they have to put in attendance for
Yes.
every class?
So we can't pick and choose. Yeah, this is something that we can't pick and choose when we do attendance. So again, there's a good chance that attendance could look very different in 2 weeks. We had to it's a new module in Infinite Campus. So part of the state requirements is that we have to account for our students, whether they're learning virtually or whether they're home. So right now, the only way to do it is like that. But we've agreed with the union, we're gonna play it out for a week or two, see how this works. Because if we changed it last week, we would have been changing it from something we don't know to something else we don't know. So.
You gotta try it,
So-
and get what works.
Google Classroom can't capture it?
I don't think so, right? So there's a couple of options that we have where one of them is, where the kid can sign in, so to say, and that means that they were active, and then the teacher verifies that. There's another way that you can make certain assignments, the virtual assignment, and it tracks attendance that way. We're playing with it. So it's possible that this is going to change. Unfortunately, I don't think, and I'd have to look, we don't have the option to pick and choose. Like we might, because they're in multiple different classes. I don't think we can pick and choose which classes you have to sign into. So attendance will probably look very different in 2 weeks.
But if there are different classes.
Yes.
And you offer it at the same time, right? So someone's gonna be on a module.
Right.
If they have to sign into that module, that should be sufficient that they're there. And if
Yes.
they have to do that 8 times during the course of the day,
Right.
that's,
Well, that makes sense.
Right.
But that's not how it's working.
When explain to me, because that's my understanding, is that they have to register, they have to
Right.
log into, they have to check in to
In
each
class,
class.
You have to go to
At
intimate
the time of the class
campus.
Okay,
You have to sign, like,
I'm sorry.
band one or
Right,
period one.
right,
so
so
we call
period
them.
one, you got banned, okay,
You have to log in to
Yes.
Infamous Campus.
right,
Check in and send in your attendance,
Okay.
and then head to Google Classroom to
Right.
see what you need to do, right? And then every teacher does it
Right.
differently.
Yeah.
So, and, I have a very diligent daughter, for instance, and she forgot to sign in to seventh,
No
and she
problem.
panicked,
No,
right?
yeah,
And then I'm
So-
like, did you sign? I have 4 minutes left, and she runs back to her room, and she's.
The other piece of this is that the teachers on the back end have a week or so to go correct it. This is, and again, under no circumstances are we looking for that kid that forgot to do, we're looking for the kid that's missing. And
Well,
that's,
yeah, but I
that's
also
really
think
the-
because it's reporting, and
Yes.
I wouldn't want us as
Correct.
a school
Yes.
district to then
Yep.
be missing reporting, you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
That's what I was saying.
So, yeah, so this is when I met with Carl and John, the president, vice president of the union, and all of us had a little bit of concerns about the attendance module. And quite honestly, we agreed, since that we were discussing an unknown, to really spend a lot of time changing an unknown to another unknown would be silly. Let's live it.
it's a work in progress,
Yeah.
so you gotta,
Let's live
you
it.
gotta see what works.
Here's what we're
Okay.
not planning, all right? And everybody's heard me say this. We're not looking for people to do something just for the sake of doing it. We want it to have a purpose. And as many times as possible, we would like to take care of multiple issues with one action. I don't want people to have to do double work for the same thing. So as we move on, and there's a more efficient way to do something, we're gonna do it. We're not making people jump through hoops just because we can. There's no.
There's a purpose.
Yeah, nobody has any interest in that.
Yeah.
We have to find efficient ways to do it because it's a lot for the teachers.
Mhm.
It's, so we're trying to find ways to combine, attendance so that it all kind of merges, so you only have to do something once. We're trying to combine lesson planning for the teachers, so you only have to do something once, and, because right now it's a lot on everybody, so. I would say at the open meeting, we'll probably have a much better conversation about attendance, and by then I'll have met with Carl and John about, where we're going with it.
The other thing I would like to ask, and it sounds like you guys are in the process
Yes.
of changing, so
Uh-huh.
it might be a moot point
Okay.
anyway, but I
Sure.
felt like a need to address it.
Sure,
Is I'm really concerned about the fully virtual
Mm-hmm.
online kids and their social interaction and their wellness.
yes,
And of course, it's a work in progress.
Correct.
But you were talking about recordings.
Yeah.
There's no,
yes,
so far,
so far. correct.
obviously,
correct.
but even in any of the agendas or any of the schedules, none of them
So
are.
there's two things that are gonna happen. So it's funny that you brought that up, because in the beginning, I was excited about 4-day weeks, because I was like, okay, we get rid of the virtual day, and now it's presenting that issue. So before we had this all virtual option, and we said, we're gonna maximize our in-person instruction. So if there's a Monday closed, this is where I said every decision has a domino effect. By doing that, we've taken that full virtual day away, so in hindsight, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but, in the beginning, when we made our plan, we were trying to get as many kids, we're trying to maximize our in-person instruction. So maybe, I thought about it today, like, maybe it would have been better if we just alternated, but we're trying to make it easier for the parents as well. And, have the kids get into the school as much. But that's one of the problems with this week, is that we're losing that Wednesday where we have all the kids together. What Charlie and Eliana did at each building, and this is what's gonna get added. I think we all struggled with now how to communicate with the kids who are fully virtual while we're busy with the live kids. And they've each freed up in their buildings teachers that are now going to reach out to these virtual kids in each subject. So it'll be another forum for them to go into periods throughout the day, and it'll be dedicated to different subjects. You'll have like an English 7 and an English 8 and an algebra. So it'll be a second, I don't want to say live, but interactive vehicle for these kids.
I don't think I got that. Follow that.
So there's
Sorry.
in other words, it's going to be like interactive. We have teachers at each building for us and high school that have been, their periods have been freed up, okay? To where Mr. Cobb and Dr. Levy can assign them different subjects on a certain period, on a certain day, so an English teacher might be freed up, say, third period on Thursday, Friday, for the fully virtual kids that are in ninth grade to go work with a ninth grade English teacher and work with all the other kids that are virtual. So there's gonna be another round, there's gonna be another vehicle for these kids that are fully virtual on top of just what they're getting from their teacher.
So is that live instruction?
It's gonna be a combo of live, it's more, I would call it more like AIS. So we're gonna be providing support in all subject areas for that.
It's almost like office hours.
Yeah,
so
well,
virtual.
I think it's more than office hours, because it's gonna be like
Yeah,
teachers are
true.
gonna be there and working on that particular subject.
I just wanted to add that we did pay for the subscription for Second Step, the secondary level.
Right.
And I know last year we had started that, so we can start to incorporate some more Second Step this
Correct.
year. And that social emotional program.
Yep.
Right.
And the other thing that's gonna happen is your guidance counselors, they're going to be doing when we normally bring like you remember the English class down, we're gonna be doing those on virtual days. And that's gonna incorporate our fully virtual kids too, because I don't wanna pull kids out of class if they're in school, unless they have an issue and they need to. But we're gonna be doing a lot of PPS, like guidance meetings with groups of virtual kids. And that's gonna pull them in, to get them interactive a little bit as well.
But let me ask you,
Sure.
I participated in an event, it was a meeting, and then there was a breakout session.
Yes.
We can do that in Google Classroom, where these kids kind
It's
of do like
coming.
one-on-one,
I heard that the feature's coming.
I think it's coming, I don't think it's there yet.
but that's not in Google Classroom.
It's in Zoom.
This fall.
Right.
So they
I-
don't have that
They're gonna
platform.
release it
No, not yet. So I know what you're talking. So I was on a Zoom for my son for college scheduling, and then they went into breakouts.
Yeah, and then they bring you back in.
Correct. So it's
Yeah,
almost
it was,
like-
it was, it was, it was a. I was
Yeah, it's
like,
an interesting
wow, it's
feature, and
it's
Jay and I
interesting.
It's
talked
thought
about
that they want us to subscribe to, like the enterprise level of Google, which would be an extra subscription. That's certainly something to look into, but as they add more features, they want you to now upcharge. So that's really what.
Yeah, because that takes you back to that breakout, like now the teacher could set up groups.
Yeah. You get
And like,
full
okay, go
group
talk to
levels.
yourselves, because
Right.
especially for the virtual kids, they're getting no one-on-one with their
No,
classmates.
Right, and that's the problem with, and like I said, that goes back to, when this first started, I was like, okay, great. 4 days a week, we're getting kids in the building 4 days a week, every day it's open. But now with the full opt-out kids, it's got an issue there. So I'm questioning that decision right now. And, that's kind of, next week we have the Wednesday, and we have the Wednesday the following week. But the first week, because we went with, let's get the kids in the building, and we switched our Monday
yeah, they're getting
gray.
no live instruction.
We moved our Monday gray to Wednesday.
Right.
That's having an impact on,
Now it happened 4 times in the next, or 3 times in the
right,
next.
3
2
times,
months.
right, so,
But even just one day, I mean, that's very limited. We'll talk about
Yeah.
this more later.
What about extracurriculars too? I mean, virtual kids,
Mhm.
as of now, extracurriculars can meet over, virtual.
yeah, absolutely.
So virtual kids should be given the opportunity to join
Virtual kids have
extracurriculars.
all the opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
And I think if I read it includes everything. So it's different than kids that, if you remember, there was a different policy for kids that are homeschooled.
Mhm.
These kids are considered registered and enrolled in schools. So they have access to anything that we do in the high schools. At the high school and the middle school, I think because it's so overwhelming for the teachers, the 3 of us, Dr. Levy, Mr. Cobb, we kind of put a little hold on the extracurricular until September 21st. Really just more not to throw out a third date, because right now that's the date that Section 11 has
Yeah.
with their sports.
Right.
That was for the in-person though. Like right now,
Right.
if I was a teacher who ran a club, I can start doing Zoom
Yes,
sessions.
in
and-
theory you can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
In theory you can. I think right now teachers are a little,
It's
their heads are
overwhelming,
spinning.
I think. right
Makes
now.
sense.
So, their heads, but I do have teachers that want to get going. I know I've spoken to teachers that, both theater, music, and, student council that want to get rolling. So, we're not gonna slow them down for sure. But I think we're gonna try and, we got some
We'd love to
tweaking
know what
here.
that looks like though.
Well, it's gonna look like a virtual meeting. That's what it's gonna look like. It's just gonna be an opportunity for them to create another classroom, another Google
Participate.
classroom, and if you wanna be in a club on Tuesday, after school, you can all log into that Google Classroom.
I've seen other schools do it, like, for instance, it's an art club, right?
Right.
They all draw, and then they're talking about what they're drawing, they talk about the techniques, and then they show what they worked on.
Right.
And they take a picture of everybody putting up what they worked on. It can be done really
Yeah,
cool,
it can.
definitely can be.
Yeah, I think this is,
Who's that?
it's
Well,
definitely,
it's
being done
yeah, we
on
will.
TV.
Bob Ross.
Everybody's
Bob
like,
Ross.
Jay, the teachers are,
Pay by numbers.
they're
He's
in,
a young guy, he
and
knows
they're
that.
trying to figure out how to, they want to do right by all the kids. And they're just trying to make sure, they're trying to figure out, they're playing with the cameras, and they're trying to figure out.
I agree. I think the reality is, like you said, the next 2 weeks, things are gonna look vastly different.
Yeah.
And teachers are gonna come up with plans for kids to link up, a virtual kid, an in-person kid, kind of like a pen pal in a way, but like a virtual pal.
Right,
And we
that's
can
a cool idea.
develop ideas just by
You
brainstorming.
gotta feel your
That's
way.
gonna
This
come.
is
We're
all
gonna
this
see what
everybody.
needed, and
Yeah.
we're gonna draft it.
No one really knows yet.
Well, if Bob Ross can do it,
Yeah.
we can do it.
Happy little trees.
Happy little trees.
Yep, like I said, I think today was good because it showed that this can work. And I think last week was good because it got, I think there was so much angst over opening. And I would say by the end of Tuesday, there were so many people that were so overwhelmed. And then it was, oh, I got kids virtual and I got kids, and it's a lot. It is a lot on a teacher. But now they're in the mode of, okay, this can work. And I think everybody's over the hump of, can we get kids in the building? And now, like I said, I got a few emails from different teachers who are like, all right, we're good, we got this. And now I'm in tweak mode. And if there's a staff that can pull it off, it'll be this group because
Absolutely,
they're in.
absolutely.
They're in.
They're all in. Jay, I just have a question for you. On that platform that Jerry was just talking about, is there other services that come with that level if we were to go to that level of
Yes.
service?
Yeah, so they're gonna make it more and more attractive and more and more worthwhile to subscribe to. But when obviously those additions are made and they're tested and they're verified, then we can, revisit the potential, financial implication.
Does it have anything to do with the bandwidth? Like, would it make that larger for us to maybe have a
It would
better?
require us to change our internet speed.
Okay,
It would just offer more services from Google for us. If
Okay.
anything, some more security services, like we spoke about last year with cybersecurity.
yes, of course.
There's additional protections related to the Google Enterprise Plan
Okay,
available to districts.
okay.
We looked into it last year, but without some extra things, lots of folks didn't subscribe on other districts across the
Right.
country.
Right.
They're gonna make it more attractive because they see it as big business.
More than anything, the biggest.
Especially now.
Yeah, the biggest thing we're concerned about right now is devices. That's an issue because we want to make sure everybody's got access.
Sure.
And we're missing
1,500.
1,500 that we
Yeah.
thought would be in our possession. So that's an issue.
I understand trying to get it to all the students,
Yeah.
and that's a great goal,
Right.
but, when you did that, survey,
Yes.
how many people estimated, you don't have
Well,
to have, like.
We have
needed
very
it?
few that don't have, okay? What's changed this year from the spring is that people need multiples now. Whereas in the spring, you could get away with one for a couple of kids because it was a little bit more virtual work and less interactive with specific times. People now
Their own.
they almost need their own because there's so much going on
Well,
during
Wednesdays,
school hours, yeah. So that's gonna be, we have more people asking for multiple. We're trying to be as accommodating as
Right, right.
possible.
Even buy them in the stores.
Right, I know. I had to order the one for my son for college.
And stuff like that.
Jay and I talked today, we put out an email to the staff and we're looking for, without hindering what they do in the classroom, we're looking to see if staff has a good enough device that they can give back their Chromebook as well. But we have the added twist of, we have to have some devices on hand for some TAs and aides who would have to log in virtually to have maybe help a
To
kid.
assist the class,
To
yeah.
assist the class or to assist the kid if there's an IEP need. So there's some added need. that we have. So if a student has a one-on-one, we have to make sure that that aide can log into the classroom. So,
Well, maybe if the weight really starts to take hold for a while, we can turn it towards our students too, who are at home.
correct.
You can log into Google on any computer, you don't need.
Exactly. And then there's a lot of people that have said, yeah, I don't need a device from the school. You know, there are plenty of people that have said that. You know, but exactly what you said, some people have tried and they can't even get it. So, and unfortunately, you know, we have our money is all committed.
Right.
And they're
Right.
just sitting.
It's not like we can purchase something else. It's committed for those.
So,
Any other thoughts from the team on reopening?
You know, I think there is a little bit of a plus to this stuff, because, you know, having kids in school for 2 days out of the week, too bad we couldn't grab another day somewhere, because when you put 7 kids in a classroom, look at the attention those 7 kids are getting. I mean, really,
yeah, you're right.
I mean, you talk about cutting class size down.
Mhm.
Boy,
You know, and I think.
there's a little bit of a plus
There
there.
is.
I mean, you know,
I would say-
socialization, the whole
On
thing.
the in-class
Correct.
instruction.
I would say,
Yes.
as I walked around and looking at the numbers, the biggest classes currently are at like Frost and JFK.
Okay,
That's where the most kids in a room. The high school is much more spread out. You know, there's so many different variables to the high school schedule that you might have rooms with only a handful of kids, but then you have rooms, you know, with, you know, your math class, your English class, it probably had 12, 13 kids in it today. You know, and all of our desks are the appropriate social distance apart. The kids were great with the masks, you know, and
so it stays cool
How
too.
proud we are of them, huh?
today and tomorrow, today was hot.
How proud.
Tomorrow's supposed to be hot, and then I can't imagine it's gonna stay much hotter.
Oh, please
You know,
not.
I don't
Right?
think,
It's supposed to go 75.
Yeah.
Please not. I'm done.
yeah, a couple of other things that I just wanted to mention. Thursday at Cuomo's press conference, he announced a dashboard that we really didn't have much information about. So there was a webinar today that we got. Today was the first day that this dashboard was released. So if you get questions about it, what it is I had to go in and submit information, and we have to do this daily now. And you have to do it by school. So we have 5 submissions a day. And they ask for how many kids are learning. We have to identify whether we're in a fully live, fully virtual, or a hybrid situation. Then we have to identify how many students are on the in-person hybrid part and how many people are in the full virtual hybrid part. And then we have to identify how many staff members, how many teachers. And then, so that number won't change day to day necessarily. You know, unless we have maybe a new entrant or withdrawal. So those numbers will stay pretty good. But then it's how many positive cases you have. So they're gonna track it. So today.
It's
I
a
was-
tracing. It's
Yeah.
tracing.
That's true.
He made it sound in his press conference today, it was all automated, it wasn't reliable on school, so
Well,
that wasn't.
Here's where it's not reliable. It's reliant on me knowing that somebody tested positive, okay? So if I don't know the person tested positive, either the Department of Health calls me, or the person self-reports it. So it's reliant on me knowing the information. So,
Which is not always accurate.
no, or certainly not up to date. You know, it might get to me eventually. I think that it's gonna be, in the beginning, I think it'll be no problem. We'll get the information in a timely fashion. If it starts to snowball a little bit, then it's gonna be, and if the Department of Health gets overrun, then it's gonna be slow to get our information.
Very interesting how he frames it and then
Yes.
how the actuality is.
Yes,
Yes,
Nothing new.
implementation.
yes.
That's nothing new.
Isn't that always the issue?
Right, it's framed as though we're testing and then reporting on our test.
The framework
Actually,
comes out,
it
it's the
sounded like it was
implementation that doesn't
automated
really,
Between the
Jive.
labs and the health department and not relying on the schools. Okay,
Nope, not the case.
okay.
all right.
In fact, it was a little bit time consuming. So, but each day should be quicker because the original numbers were the ones that I had.
I have to say, I was pretty happy to hear that the temperature part went smooth.
Yeah,
That was the one thing I was
Yeah, me too.
so fearful of.
Yep.
That these poor kids are so dying to get into that classroom,
Yeah.
and then it was gonna be a drawn out,
I'm telling you,
There
the
was
kids-
a
Good.
flow around.
the
Yeah.
kids
Good.
were-
So many staff on there.
good,
It went so smoothly.
good, excellent to
And
hear.
we'll see,
Thankfully, it was
Really
a sunny
tricky.
day.
well,
The rest of-
again, every one of these plans
Staff.
is contingent on a lot
Staff.
of things
you
going
can't
well.
say enough about it.
No,
Yeah. No, it's-
you know what, it is true, you've said it, we've said it, but we should say it again.
Yeah.
We are all so proud of our staff.
Yeah.
Our staff is amazing people. You are all amazing people, everybody,
Yes,
thank you.
yeah.
Really, I mean, it just, it's
Yeah,
wonderful to hear.
You can tell the building administrators, the curriculum administrators, they put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And then over the last week or so with all the staff and, they brought in and they put the work in, and it's good to see.
Okay, good,
New
It's
set
good
of
to hear.
hero- We've got a new set of heroes here. They've been heroes, but.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No,
Okay. The committee meeting flyer. Anybody have any input on that?
Does it look silly that I'm named on?
No.
both? Though I'm doing both.
No,
And I start with diversity and inclusion, by the way. But does it look silly?
Jerry, don't be celebrating over there. Don't be celebrating over there.
I don't know, I might have a rock star in my group, I'm just saying. Just might be growing.
Just remember, we're sharing, but we're good at sharing. That's
It's
fine.
okay, it's okay to share.
It's
And I
awesome.
wanted to go on the facilities and grounds. Committee, if it's not too late.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Welcome aboard.
Of course, Donna.
What a hot dog.
No, that's awesome. Okay, perfect. That was my question, so thank you for giving me the answer before I asked it. And Chris, we'll just work out, between the two committees, like, if there's something that's being done, Jerry, that night, that you have to be there, you're there. If you go there, diversity, inclusion 2 months in a row, and you come back to me, we'll work it out. It's gonna be great. All right.
We could even start special ed like 6:15 or 6:30.
Yeah, we could do it a little earlier. We've done it before.
We usually need that.
I think you did that one year,
We did.
at like 6:00.
Yeah.
So I did that.
We could even do that 6:00 so that you have that opportunity. Yeah. All right, so let's make that change now.
Make it so.
6 PM, 6 PM for the Special Education Committee. This way that Christine is with the special ed from 6 to 6:30 and then 6:30 to 7:30, all right? Anthony, fantastic, right in your wheelhouse, so I'm happy for you. And that was a great suggestion, Mr. Jean-Pierre.
My pleasure.
That's terrific.
I'm good at spotting talent.
You are truly good at that. All right. So that's good. So that is checked off. Now, the Eagle Scout project. We were talking about that.
Yep.
I know Patrick Oswald, comes from a beautiful family. Thank you, the Oswalds. They are responsible for the beautification of that hut on the outside, and that was Megan Oswald who did that, along with her dad and her mom. So that was a beautiful project. And they still keep it up. They have not let it go by the wayside, and bravo to them. And now Patrick, their son, did a GoFundMe page, and he raised funds to enact his ideas for the inside of the hut. Al and I and the Booster Club kind of met with Bob and with Charlie, and we all met last year. And unfortunately, the upgrade in electrical cannot happen because that would be a tremendous undertaking, very, very expensive. And they would have to go from the building to the hut by ripping up the parking lot. So you're talking about a major expense. So that can't happen, but he has really wants to get together with us and with Charlie and talk about the next steps. So if everybody agrees, what I'll do is I'll just reach out to him find out what days he's looking to do this, and I'll shoot out an email to everybody. And he would just like to go over what the thoughts are inside, and he has his own thoughts, so I would love to hear them. So that's one of the Eagle Scout projects. The other, right, is this beautiful cube,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
beautiful cube, this idea.
Mhm.
What a wonderful idea. I think it would be such an addition to our program. I think it would be a beautiful project. And then what would be, lastly, what
Okay,
was,
so we had
the other one was
yeah.
just added this week,
Yeah, so
right?
we had a gentleman, high school student,
Yes,
so he was inspired by Mr. Heeg, who wrote a paper about a Deer Park resident
yes.
who
A
served
veteran.
in Vietnam.
Mhm.
And so he's looking to put a memorial, a stone Vietnam memorial out here. So I invited him to come to the board meeting next.
The
end of
open board
September.
meeting, okay.
So if you guys had some questions. So Gary, going back to your question, there's a couple of different Eagle Scout projects and Gold Scout, Gold Award projects. Sometimes a student needs permission because they want to do work on our property.
Right.
And then sometimes they want to donate something. So that cube is more of a donation,
Mhm.
which is, I think, when I spoke to Mr. Molinelli, and I explained in the future, just tell us up front, that would have been presented to us. He was thinking he would present that to us for us to accept the donation. Whereas some other projects, we need upfront permission because it's, a child might need access to the grounds or might need, to talk about rules or something like that.
Mhm.
So that's your difference between, the timing of
The
when you get
donation
something. and
versus-
you get,
The cube is for JFK.
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 Yeah.
I'm-
Yeah, you're right.
Wait, which cube are you talking about?
The sensory.
Sensory.
The sensory,
yeah,
the sensory
JFK.
cube.
Yes. So,
I got it
Yes.
confused with JFK or JFK.
This one.
Because they
Yes.
had the whole
yes, they
way.
have the whole one, yes,
Yep.
correct. So the difference is that one, it wouldn't really get board action until we accept
Right,
the
the
donation of
donation.
the item.
We have to approve the donation.
Right.
And that's from Robert Pundren.
Yes.
Yep, sensory box for special education students at
Right,
JFK.
so this is a young man, Christopher Joyce, I met with him and his dad about a week ago. And so I invited them to come to the meeting on September 24th to talk a little bit about what he's looking to do. He wrote up a little bit more for me.
Okay,
It's a nice idea. I don't think it's, he's.
And what was the name of the student for the memorial?
Christopher Joyce is the student. Yes.
And Jay, I think in your email you had mentioned about donating stuff.
So Patrick's got the GoFundMe. Robert needs donations to complete it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that is. So again, that would
Yeah,
be
he's in the
something.
middle of it.
Right.
I was texting his mom earlier
Yeah,
because I was giving a personal donation. They have to, I'm on a Boy Scout committee troop thing, I'm on a committee, and they have to do the fundraising themselves.
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right, so we can.
We can't help with that. They have to get their donations themselves. And the only reason they could do a GoFundMe or the way that they're doing funding now is because the other ways that they usually do fundraising are not allowed because of the pandemic. But they've already had everything approved. If they've gone through the right steps, they've
Okay.
gone through their committees, their troop, and had it approved by Boy Scouts before they even get to us to do. Right, because we wouldn't be for their project to get approved later and finalized and stamped of approval, we don't help except for giving them the project
Permission or
permission.
access.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we were level set as
Yes.
far as
Yep.
everybody, from an Eagle Scout project, everybody's on the same page. That
Mhm.
no one's getting preferential treatment or anything like that. So
And
just
by
to make
all
sure.
accounts, we treat our Eagle Scouts so nicely.
No, I
In
know.
comparison
I
to
know.
other districts,
Yeah.
my son's out of the Wantagh district,
And the same thing with the girls who get the gold award.
Mm-hmm.
This district's always been very,
very supportive,
yes.
very supportive. And it's always lovely to go to
Yeah.
those, the Eagle Scout
it is.
ceremonies and
That's a
the
great
Gold
thing.
Award
Yeah.
ceremony. It's wonderful.
It's well recognized on the college, like these are
It
two,
really
these are
is.
two high school seniors, that's nice to fund your Your college application, there you got the Eagle Scout done, yeah.
Definitely something to encourage our students
Absolutely, absolutely. When
to
you get
work
that level,
towards. It's a
get-
wonderful thing.
Get all
We're
that
gonna
on your
have
finished.
another- we're gonna have another application in 3 months.
There you go. All right. That sounds good. Anybody have any more to say about the Eagle Scout projects?
What happened with the one for JQA with the things being painted on the
Tarp,
box?
yeah.
Yeah, Alicia, our sensory, the things that were on the floor, we were putting them on in the hallways.
We were, they were.
But with COVID, we're not in, yeah.
That's right.
So we're holding off on that until we can actually do that
Especially since we're, not encouraging kids to touch the things.
to
Right,
touch, that's right.
Right,
Yes.
and I had said we would take out the twister
The
one
twist, yeah,
because.
we had spoken about that originally.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That was a good, yeah, that was good.
Well, that's what's good about Robert Hunter's project is that he can make the donation, it's not a permanent install someplace. So you can move forward with it once the school gets settled in.
Great job. Very good family, so very good. All right, review of policies. We wanted to talk about this for a couple of weeks. Actually, maybe 2 months or 3 months.
Yes, I have the original packet right here. July 7th.
Oh, boy. Okay. So, Donna, how about I give you the first go around? Go right ahead, sister.
Okay, on
What do you want to start with?
The code of conduct ethics one. I mean,
Okay.
some of them are minor things and others were, were.
The one, the whole packet, right? The packet. Yep, go ahead.
What page are you on, Don?
All right, wait.
Okay.
And you made me look at it a third time today. So. The first thing, it's a grammatical thing, but it affects like the meaning of the sentence. Page 2. The third paragraph up from the bottom. It says, effectively foster students' academic achievement and social emotional growth. And that should either be a small p or you have to put in like a comma or a semicolon if you want it to be like another sentence. Otherwise, it makes it seem like providing starts a new sentence because it's capital and it doesn't make sense. So that p really just has to be a small p or you put in a comma or a semicolon, and still needs a small p. Nothing major on that one.
Well, I think it's the same thought, so maybe a semicolon, correct?
I'm saying either way, it's,
Okay.
right, otherwise it's no good.
Page 2,
So,
third paragraph from the bottom.
From the bottom.
And it's in the first sentence.
The second sentence.
Well,
Providing students.
we're gonna combine it as a one sentence.
You see it, Lisa?
Yeah, I got it.
But that would make it run on.
And page 6.
Yeah, maybe we're on, you're right.
Oh, I thought in number 8, I thought we might want to include student in that. Since student was mentioned in number 3 above, when you have knowingly, intentionally damages or destroys the personal property of any school employee or any person lawfully, even though a student is lawfully on the property, I thought we might want to put student in there to clarify it more, since you have it in number 3 above, you mentioned student.
Because this is definitions, so we're talking about both staff and student.
See what I'm saying? On number 3, you have upon another student or any other person lawfully on school property, so I thought we should be consistent and add student in number 8 since you have it in number 3. Just to be consistent.
So what, employees, comma, student, or any person
Well,
locally
it's
on?
just the way it's written in number 3,
I
just,
see what you're saying.
see what I'm saying? It should be consistent.
Yeah, add student.
Yeah, add
Number
student in number 8.
Okay,
Let's see, page 7. I'll skip the grammatical ones up above. In number 13, I didn't know if we wanted to add according to the dress code. Dress appropriately for school and school functions according to the dress code. Otherwise, who considers what appropriate, who doesn't consider what appropriate is
I think
subjective.
I think that's fine, according to the district dress code.
Yeah,
Do we have a definition for dress code?
Yeah,
yeah, we have a dress code.
it's one of the
It's later
sections in
on.
here, yeah. It's up on top on the right. Yeah, it's page 20, student dress code.
5300.25.
So should we have a reference to that page then?
I think for dress code, I think that's sufficient. Huh?
Yeah,
You could put,
Maybe not get too wordy.
Yeah, I mean, you go crazy with this.
where you could put the reference to the policy number.
Yeah.
5300.25.
In parentheses?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a good, that was a good idea.
5300.25. Okay.
okay, page 8, minor up on top, you need an A in that first paragraph. All members of our learning community, including students engaged, must assume a responsible role or responsible roles, however you want to do it, but it either needs an A or it needs an S after roles.
I'm sorry, what page?
I
A
think A.
on top. I think A is better.
Yep.
Talking singularly.
Same thing, a minor thing on page 11. In A, that first thing, in between, school environment, it should be, stimulating school environment. You can either put a semicolon, supporting active teaching, or it has to be, experiment, environment by support, you get it?
Mhm.
By supporting, however.
By
you-
support, I would say by
Okay,
supporting,
so add the
by
by.
supporting active teaching and
Yeah.
learning for all students regardless of
And I'm
actual.
saying, because just, I hate to be picky, but
Yep.
since this is an official thing, it should
It's
be.
fine, that's your input.
Let's see. I guess we can skip that one, that's minor again, I'm not gonna quibble with the semicolons. Page 8, I need my glasses, 18. I can't read my own handwriting, that's bad.
What is it under?
Oh, this was a minor thing, under healthcare. In the second paragraph, that should be a small I after the word function. The second paragraph
Function in
under
the classroom.
healthcare, yeah, that should be a small I.
Okay,
Who is,
You see?
wait, oh, here, okay. And then under the emergency procedures, number 3, because we did it a certain way in my building. If you don't reach anybody, who goes with the student to the hospital? Do we have a list, like in my school, we had a list of school aides who go, some would go to
Yes,
the
there's
precinct,
specific
some would
people.
go to the hospital, we had 2
Where,
lists.
yeah, where does it say that now?
Number
Number
3.
3, under
Notify the
emergency
students parent
procedure.
regarding action taken. If parent is not available, notify the person named on the student's health card or family. In cases involving employees, the person designated in the employee's personnel file.
It's just contacted, but I was wondering who goes.
That's in the.
I think that should be vague.
Parent decision, because,
Yeah, that's,
you know.
No, I'm just saying, because we had a
Could be
procedure,
a principal,
we had a
could be an
list
assistant
of
principal.
who went.
well, that's for,
That's just for
I think should remain vague.
response.
No, I'm asking.
Right, no,
oh,
no, I think,
it always starts, at least I can speak for the high school. It would always go, building administrator, counselor, social worker.
Okay,
Those
because
are-
we had a list.
Yeah.
Well, we had so many arrests and everything, so we had a list of school aides who would go to the hospital, school aides
Yeah,
who
we-
would go
we-
to the.
Well,
Yeah,
but
it's
he said it's a
pretty
little
much
different in the younger schools, right? It's a decision by the
Yeah.
principal because.
So are you looking
Don't
to
have the
add
kids
any
with
verbiage
them.
to that, or you just wanted to know what that
I
was?
personally wanted to know for myself, if
Okay.
there was any set, you know,
Yeah.
designated.
Personnel that was in
Right.
charge of that, okay.
And I didn't know if we should just add, you know, like appropriate personnel would, you know, unless you want to leave that in a different
Yeah, I would-
policy. That was
think,
more-
I think
more
we
for-
should leave that.
Yeah, that was just more for myself.
Yeah.
If, you know, in some cases, the parents aren't going to be home.
Right, that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
So, it says down here, it could be notified them or the family physician, and that should be listed on their data cards.
Yeah, well, so.
Well, it
no
says
matter what,
student
we have to-
teleport,
We.
Someone has to go.
it says it.
Right. But more than anything, I think this really speaks to the contact.
Right, that's what I was saying,
This really
too.
more speaks to the contact, that if we can't reach a parent, we have to notify somebody that's on that card.
Yes.
And we always find a way to get to somebody. You know.
Okay. Page 20. Under B, number 4, I didn't know if you wanted to include anything political on there. You know, can't wear anything that's vulgar, obscene, libelous, designated race, religion. I didn't know if you wanted to add political into that list or no.
I think that kind of drags into a,
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
expression conversation
Yeah, I
there.
don't think so.
And do we
I
have,
mean,
all the spectrum of race, color, religion, creed? I know it keeps expanding.
Yeah.
Where exactly are you talking about?
Page
Number
20,
four.
number 4.
Race, color, religion, creed, gender, sexual orientation, or disability.
Are we missing anything
Let me tell you,
that
hold
could
on,
offend anybody?
I'm going, where is it?
Number
Number
4,
four,
under
on
B,
Page 20.
Under B.
under student dress code.
We could say, Jared, the way we could do it is, because you're right, the list keeps changing. Some way you say it such as, including but not limited to someone's,
Right.
Personal,
Whatever,
personal
That's
preference,
personal
Personal-
identification.
identification.
yeah,
And creed is really ethnicity is more appropriate.
so creed should be
Ethnicity is
out,
not there.
ethnicity should be in there?
So race, color, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, and disability, right? Or disability, I'm sorry.
well, it depends, you would just have or should be just
Be
the
comma.
last one, if you're gonna add something.
Get rid of or.
The only one that I can
Yeah,
think
but or
of that
disability.
might be
equal.
added is like sexual identity.
Is that what you said?
Well, it's
Or
sexual
gender
orientation
identity.
and
I would
identity,
say
but that's why
encompasses.
other personal identity, could,
Personal
Yeah.
identity, okay.
yeah, could add to anything
Right.
else.
So how did you word it at the end? Equal but not limited
Well,
to
Not include items that
orientation.
denigrate others. Usually know where to word that cleanly.
Equal but not limited to, what did you say?
And there's
Sounds
no way to
like
word it the right way. Yeah,
Say it.
including but not limited to.
Included but not
Then we'd
limited
have to
to.
change the whole sentence, because it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On account of the following, but not limited to.
Right.
It was more, it
You
was just a
wouldn't want-
question, because some,
Yeah.
we had that, that's why I was just asking.
Because you would, it's not just about these things, you wanna add something else, like, say, if somebody's obese, and somebody
Oh, it's all
made
the
some,
protected classes.
Right.
Yeah.
Or personal, what did you say, personal identification?
yeah, but that doesn't cover obese, so I'm trying to think of the right word. You know what I mean, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
It's,
blondes,
it's an open
stereotypical,
page
you
now,
know?
so that's why I was just like,
Right.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's very broad.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
Well, you have that denigrate others, that would cover,
yeah.
That's true.
But not if you add the on account
Right.
of.
Well, then you
because now
should
you're
just
only
say,
specifying the-
at that point, you could say denigrate others, including but not limited to, right there.
Right.
Put it right
Yes,
there.
Yes.
okay, that's good.
That's a good catch. And Jerry and Anthony I think we should change creed, since it's not a word, I think ethnicity would be more appropriate. And then I think they hit the nail on the head about sexual identification, not just sexual orientation, but specifically adding that. It's one of the ones that are in hate crimes.
Right.
So sexual orientation, sexual identification,
Sexual identity or gender
gender,
identity?
gender
Gender
identity.
identity?
Gender identity.
Yes, you're right.
That was my mistake.
Like the oldest one. Good memory.
It's good, it's a
It's
good catch.
crazy.
Yes,
It's
both of
crazy.
you. All three of you. Four of you. Four of you. Jeez.
Okay.
All right.
28,
What?
page 28. Oh, that's just a grammar thing. In the top paragraph, you need a comma after violence in the fourth sentence.
It's not in the middle. for-
Violence, comma, intimidation, comma, bullying, comma, right, okay.
On page 29, 5, because I mentioned this last year, which means it wasn't. Number 5 says threatening an act of violence, where it already says in number 1, committing or threatening to commit an act of violence. It's like redundant. It was already said in number 1.
So we take out number 5,
If you read it, see what I'm saying in that
And
first
yeah, it
sentence?
says the same
it
word.
right there.
right. All right, so
Okay.
5 comes out. 6 becomes 5, 7 becomes 6. Okay,
Now, one thing here, violent is bolded. Is the bolded meaning that it's a definition?
Yeah, so this is like, in this section, it talks about prohibited behavior, and the bold word
Yeah,
is the main word, and then the numbers, the sentences below describe what
right.
would be
If you look at
classified
page 28, Jerry, that's where it starts. You see A has disorderly in bold, B has insubordinate in bold.
Right, because I'm
So
saying
those are
that
the categories.
from our definitions page, it's not a defined term. We have violent student, we don't have violent.
wait, violent is not? We have violent student,
We don't have violent.
Because these lists are examples of what
Right.
Correct.
disruptive or violent or.
Disciplinary,
insubordinate
That section that you're originally referring to is like the definition, but more inactive.
Okay.
So Donna, going back to your point, it looks to me like since most of these come from recommended policies.
does it have to be by itself?
No, I have a feeling that we may have in number 1 added the threatening to commit an act of violence.
and not questions, as I mentioned this last year, that's what
I
I'm
have
saying.
a feeling that we added that to the committee and not realizing
right.
that 5 was there.
I'm saying, because
So
that's what we discussed
I think we're
last
better
year.
off leaving 5 and getting rid of threatening from the first sentence.
I agree,
Okay.
okay.
So we're gonna leave 5?
Leave
But
five.
then
Yeah.
scratch threatening
But
out of
take out or threatening, so committing
just committing.
an act of violence. Take out or threatening to commit. Okay. Good point.
Either way, it was no good.
But it was very insistent, saying it twice,
Okay.
that's all.
Right.
All right, I say redundant, you say consistent, okay. On page 30, number 15, that should be an or instead of, possession or use of drug paraphernalia. Or you just want possession of drug paraphernalia, depending on the meaning that you want.
What?
Or definitely more.
Okay, I'm just saying, just,
No,
Yeah,
you're
that
right,
would be an
you're
or.
right. But if we take out the or, oh, it's not mine. I'm not in possession of it.
and then, and number F, it's important, we left out the word in the second sentence, fail to remain seated. The word fail is missing. It has while on a school bus and to remain seated. Like, engage in misbehaviors otherwise prohibited of this section while on a school bus.
And to remain seated. That doesn't sound good to me.
And then after that, you have,
It looks like there's a chunk missing.
yes,
like
that's
an
what I'm
editing.
saying, yeah, otherwise you have to add all that, you know what I'm saying? It says engage in misbehaviors otherwise prohibited by sections A to E of this section while on a school bus. And otherwise, if you just put the word fail in there, and fail to remain seated, keep object, then it flows. And
But
then
it's a
they-
positive, but they're talking about, right? Remain seated,
Yeah.
not fail to remain seated. Remain seated, keep objects and
But
body
it says
parts inside the bus.
misbehaviors in the sentence above, that's the problem. So if you're describing misbehavior.
Oh, I see that, yeah.
Conduct that endangers the
Misconduct,
safety.
right,
See what I'm saying?
got it, yep,
Staying seated is not a misbehavior.
right, exactly.
If you're gonna use misbehavior, then you gotta put in fail to remain seated, fail to, whatever you want, if you want colon, remain seated, keep objects and body parts inside the bus. Or obey, and there should be an or before obey, or
So
obey,
after
or
school
and.
bus, colon,
If you want, I'm just saying.
fail to remain seated,
Keep, fail to, colon,
fail to,
remain seated, keep objects and body parts inside the bus, or you need or before obey. If you want, otherwise, no
Well-
biggie on that one.
Can I?
well,
say
no,
something
because
here?
that saves.
So, the first sentence is engaged in misbehaviors otherwise prohibited by sections A to E in the section while on a school bus. Shouldn't that be like a stop?
Yes,
And then
Period.
students should remain seated?
yes.
Period.
I agree.
So, yeah, the only, if you really split the hair, so if you go back to page 28, right, that F is a continuation of the sentence, right above letter A. So Jerry's right in the sense that it should just be a hard stop,
Yeah,
but then
After
it's
school bus.
almost gotta be like a new thought,
then
because,
you have to put a new sentence.
but it almost doesn't fit that, because we're talking about things that students shouldn't do.
Right, only because you said
What they should.
misbehaviors.
Right.
So that's,
It's like two different things, like,
that's what I'm
this is what you
saying.
should be doing, but you can't be doing this.
So we'll make that.
Or you could put such as, or whatever you want to do, but you know what I mean, it had to be fixed.
We could just write, school bus, period, students must remain seated,
Yeah, that's why.
keep
Yeah.
objects and body parts inside the bus,
Yeah.
and obey the directions to the
Right.
bus driver. Alicia, did I say that right? Yeah, all right, students must, okay,
Must, right? Shouldn't be should. It's not a question.
you want to write should?
Yeah, it should be must.
No, I'm saying.
No,
Absolutely
no,
must.
there's no thought
Students
about
must
it.
remain
Must be
seated,
Jerry, get off the bus.
Should I?
must.
Could I? May I?
Page 32, this is more of a question on the notification at the top. Do we send certified letters?
We do.
Is that
because
the, I'm just
well,
asking.
We have two ways. We have a courier that handles those too, and he gets a certification.
I was just saying, because I know we always had to send it certified.
Right. So we used to, but now that we have a courier goes to the house and
Okay,
gets the other half of gets a signed statement back that it was delivered.
and I was just for myself more.
Good.
And the bottom, let me see. When choosing intervention, students' behavior. I just thought that teachers should have an S since you had an administrator's.
Where are you at now?
At the bottom of page 32, the last sentence.
Okay.
I thought that should be teachers, since you had administrators.
Yeah, it should be.
Right. I understand what it says, I know it's right, but if you actually look at it, it looks like it's wrong. When choosing interventions and consequences of student behavior, teacher, it's like a comment, it almost looks like a list, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? Just leave it.
When choosing intervention on student behavior, teachers, administrators, and staff must.
Once you
have
have
a-
yes to teachers, I think it makes more sense.
And you gotta take out the comma, that's what she was saying, right? Yeah. The comment.
Take
between
out the comment
administrative-
after administrators.
Yep.
Well, technically, you can have a comma before the end, it's yes or no, there's no definite on that, I'm just saying grammatically. You
I
can't put a
know, but
comma before the
To
end.
at least break it up, because it already looks like a letter.
Yeah, I'm just saying, okay.
And that's been debated.
And then, almost there, page 33.
This is
Um,
gonna be the perfectest code of conduct ever.
I think in number 4, instead of having 5, 6, 7, since it's all talking about detention, it should be, 5 should be A, 6 should be B, 7 should be C. If you see what I'm saying? Because you're talking about detention,
Subsets of potential.
like subsets of detention. They shouldn't just, it's all under detention.
Okay,
And then
That's
then the other numbers would have to change naturally, but you know.
that's good.
And then 18, 19, 20, in the directions on top, it says it lists the school personnel identified after each consequence. 18, 19, and 20 have no personnel after them.
Because they are what the next consequence is.
I'm just saying, but the directions, I'm just saying only because on top it says identified after each consequence.
After consequences 1 through 17.
Well, then who would refer to the town of Babylon Youth Board? Who refers them?
We would,
No, that's what I'm saying, that would be
Oh.
what you would put after that. Who does the referring?
I do.
We can make it,
school referral,
Appropriate
District
school
referral?
administrator,
I
maybe
think-
appropriate
I think-
school administrator.
Well, technically, it's only the principal and the superintendent that can hand down discipline. The
Okay,
hearing officer recommends it, the superintendent adopts it.
so what do you
So I would
want to
just
do,
say principal,
superintendent?
well, I would say principal superintendent, because the principal
Okay.
could refer somebody.
So
I would just do
principal
principal superintendent. all
slash
of it.
superintendent?
yeah, it just
Yeah.
needed something.
On all 3,
Yeah, I'm just gonna add principal superintendent and all.
to the front of it, yep,
It says
The only place it can't be principal is permanent
School
suspension.
personnel
Right.
identified after
Right.
each consequence.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Authorized to sign that consequence. Consistent with student chapter.
Page 40, I had the same thing last year.
Uh-oh.
On the, in the middle of the page where you have AB, about the student and the age thing,
yeah,
that should be worded exactly as it is on page 42, because this last year was taken out of something from the state, but doesn't make sense the way it's contradictory almost the way it's written. But if you copy what's exactly on page 42 about the age, the whole thing about the age, it would make more sense. You know what I'm saying? If you read the
Yeah.
way this is, you need to do it
so you're just taking A and B on 42 and you're
and
putting
putting
that
it in this
same
A
thing
and B.
in,
It just makes more sense. It reads better.
okay,
And now I just have a question for myself. When we were doing this, the parent used to have to make a PINS petition. Now we're allowed to make a PINS petition?
Well, parent has to sign on too.
Because we used
Yeah.
to, we always said that it used to mean like parent, person needs the word that the
Right.
parent needs. We always did it where the parent had to go to family court and do it.
Correct.
Because this made it sound like the district can file a PINS petition.
Yes and no, we still have to work with the parent. So,
Okay, or could urge like a parent, because we can't file one, the parent has to file.
yeah, I'll get you the exact wording on that, because the law has changed a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's been a while, so.
Which page, what do you? which-
41.
on that as well, I think we have an extra space in here, right? 65 should go next to article, ungovernable should next to student, it's just, I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, the way, that was one of my minor things, the way it was typed.
Yeah, it just has to be next to it,
Yeah.
just bring the line up, yeah.
I didn't want to get attacked and beat.
Is that everything, Donna?
Well, wait, I think I have one or two more, but nothing major. Oh,
10 pages.
okay, that's it. Why is this? I heard you.
What did you say?
Just said she has 10 pages left.
I have 49 and 50, that's it. Except for Bob, now I'm gonna read it again. Oh, this again was just more of my question. On the visitor's identification badge now, do we have the pictures of them now? Do we have that
Yeah,
kind?
we have the scan.
And do we have a time on them also, or no?
Yeah, the visitor stickers have the time, right?
Yes,
The date and
exactly.
time?
Sure.
Okay.
Last year
And,
they didn't. But this year we don't have visitors, so there you go.
Exactly.
yeah,
We can scratch this whole section.
Take this section out.
Hey, really?
Nobody's coming, how about this? You don't come in.
and is there any destination
ours.
on the visitors pass? Like,
No.
we had eventually color coded them, we had 4 floors, like,
No, there isn't.
No, I don't
Last
think
year
so.
they
you
went
know,
in.
so you know the person is where they said they.
Yeah, well, that, yeah.
Well,
With-
we don't-
I'm not just
we don't
asking.
allow them
Actually,
to go
like-
really through the school, so they only
Right,
can
no,
see a
okay,
parent outside of the main office area.
okay, all right, I'm just
I-
saying, 'cause, well, we had we had
I
like
think
3,000.
they might,
Exactly.
because like, when I went to get, like, my daughter out of the nurse one day, because she was sick, it said nurse.
Nurse?
Could be.
I think it
Mm.
does.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking,
Oh,
'cause
wow.
we used to have a designation, so you knew the person, or at least the floor for a while, we just did colors for the floors, so you knew they were where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, I
Cool,
think you're
cool
right about
beans.
that.
I like that.
I think I remember one time my kid was sick and I had to go get her and go to nurse office.
So I have a question about this, if Donna is, grants, are you?
I just had one more thing on page
Oh,
51, go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
no.
No, go ahead, you have to finish.
You
That's
finish.
it. 51, number 8, there's a comma at the end.
51 number 8.
Number 8 doesn't exist.
Page, 50, number 8, sorry. You just gotta get rid of that comma
Where?
at the end of sentence 8.
Oh, the semicolon.
Semicolon, oh, my ink went over it, sorry.
All right, so get rid of it. Got it.
I mean, I think it's on some of the other policies, but I'll spare you.
Well,
Email him.
Yeah, email.
all right, email that,
If it's commas, even.
Right, it's
No,
grand.
no, if they're not right, if it's just something, if it's
right.
important.
code of conduct, you have other things?
So, you don't, like, for this year, right, you don't wanna mess with our standard
Correct,
for this year,
correct.
right? But we should have something like Appendix A, or whatever we wanna call it,
Appendix to, addendum to the
for
policy.
this year and
For
potentially next year.
To include virtual.
For, like, for, if you were supposed to get suspended if we were in real life, because I'm gonna call this fake life right now, right? If we were in real life and you were supposed to get suspended, do you really get suspended? You know what I mean,
I'm not
like,
gonna say anything about that publicly.
okay, sorry, all right, so how about this, attendance now,
Okay.
attendance,
2 days, 2 days.
so,
Don't you dare log onto that computer,
Alright, so
it
wait a
can't
minute.
work.
Attendance,
You're
student
suspended.
attendance?
yeah.
Okay.
And then I just had.
So everybody, we're on
Oh,
5100
wait,
student attendance.
she's,
What?
No, that, after that, I just had something on the safety
we wanna
plan.
make sure we get it all done then.
Yeah,
So the student in attendance, right? So this again was reading
I
like
had
we were
stuff
in
on
real
that
life,
too.
right?
Right.
So Anthony made a really good point. Do you wanna speak on it, Anthony?
Yeah, sure. So as far as like this year with attendance goes, I mean, I know we have like regulations that we have to follow from the state. But personally, I would prefer a student stays home, even if they feel like slightly, like, I feel great, but I don't wanna go to school
Correct.
as, to be cautious.
When a parent completes the health questionnaire, if they're exhibiting any of those symptoms listed, they get a red light that tells them not to come to school.
Okay.
So that's the deterrent right there.
Right.
Okay, but then how is that student gonna be completing their
Yeah,
work?
Well, my understanding is that the reopening document, in essence, trumps anything else that's in place.
Okay.
date, but I find out about that. Because in there, we have things like districts have affiliated masks, yet their dress code. But it's in the reopening document, because that's the document that we're open.
That's the
As a
guidance
result of-
document, yeah.
Okay.
And that in essence trumps anything that we have in place.
Any of our policies really at this moment, right?
Yeah, makes
On each
sense.
of
So
those,
that, I think that's kind of the deferred to document right now.
Yeah,
Masks,
makes
even
sense.
though masks don't exist anywhere in our code of conduct or in our dress code. Same thing with attendance. Right now, our attendance is, we're trying to figure out how to make it work.
But then if that's,
So,
if that's true, technically the attendance part isn't.
so,
in the guidance document, right?
no, there's an attendance section in there.
Is there?
Yeah, it's a small.
But it says it
Yeah.
counts virtually
Correct.
or, yeah, it does say,
Yes.
you're right.
So
you're
a
right.
student can
It's a generalized
Potentially-
statement.
just log on to virtual that day. Even if they have to go into school, they can just log on to
It's
virtual.
not that easy because they're not assigned, I get what
Okay.
you're saying.
No, it makes sense, that's why I meant,
It's not that easy because they are in a cohort.
Right.
Through the campus.
Right.
So like if somebody says I'm sick today, can I just jump on the virtual? They're not registered for that class.
Okay.
Right.
okay. And then, yeah, so that's not even a big deal, just missing like one day of school because you don't feel well.
Correct.
But I'm just thinking about the students who are gonna have to quarantine for 14 days or potentially 10 to
Right.
14 days.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And
Right.
maybe look for those
Right.
students. And it also
So-
depends on how they're feeling.
Right.
If they're even up to be participating.
So at the secondary level, kind of thinking that through out loud, they're still on the roster. So they still have access to, right now, Jay, if I'm correct, because this was an issue with the teachers, because in some aspect, it's easier, in some aspect, it's more difficult. The Google Classroom has all three cohorts together, correct?
Correct.
So on the
Each
Google,
teacher has the freedom to potentially create 3 different classes,
so,
so they can all have
so
their
if you look
own.
at it in the secondary, so at the elementary level,
Huh.
a child is assigned specifically to a virtual teacher. At the secondary level, the kids that are virtual are in the same Google Classroom as the kids who are gray and the kids who are maroon who are assigned to that class.
Right.
So at the middle school and the high school, the schedule was in essence designed to absorb all the virtual kids. We in essence reserved their seat.
Right.
So the Google Classroom contains all those kids, so they would have still access
To that.
that kid who might be gray and now has to quarantine, still has access to the same Google Classroom.
Right.
And could log on Wednesdays and do the same thing.
So technically, they would only miss 4 days of school.
2, right, yeah.
4 days
two-
in person.
Two
in person.
and 2, right,
Yep, okay.
correct. Yeah, there's gonna be like there's gonna be a lot, because there's gonna be a lot of those. Every time somebody asks a question like that, there's about 10 layers that
Right.
you have to peel back.
Right.
Done.
And especially like, once sports and the clubs do come back up live, you wouldn't want to punish someone like, oh, you missed too many days of
No.
school
No way.
because you were overly cautious, so now you can't participate in clubs.
Correct.
So that was where I was going with.
Yep.
with
Without a doubt.
It's a good point.
Okay, just to pivot, then, a virtual kid that has to quarantine could lose 8 days, right?
Virtual kid.
That can't log on, I guess, per se.
So a virtual kid that has to quarantine would still have access to everything.
Why can't he log on?
Would still log on, because.
But let's say they're actually,
Very
symptom-
sick.
yeah,
Well,
that's
They're
sick.
very
That's
sick.
different. That's
Yeah.
different.
That's
They
different.
could lose the
The
8
difference
days.
between a kid who's sick and a kid who's sick would be missing whatever days that they're sick and unable,
That happens in real life too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when my son had mono, that's, same
Yeah,
idea.
Shannon had one though.
in essence, this is providing a better opportunity for kids who might be out,
Makeup work is a lot more accessible.
right? Right, the lesson will be accessible that week. Right. So,
Even more than it ever was.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna present some.
Yeah, there's,
Some bad.
absolutely.
This is fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, team,
I'm loving this stuff.
team, anybody have some
See, a
major,
district wide, got one more
I-
policy over there.
I know.
I
I know.
don't want us in
The
trouble.
safety plan?
One is just a question.
Mhm.
On page 5, on the district, I don't know if you got that, because I have my old packet, I don't know what.
Yeah, we have it. Yep.
Okay, on page 5, it's just more of a question. With that go bag, who is responsible
Well,
for getting the go bag?
in each building, it's assigned to somebody, and then there's a backup assignment.
So there is a list.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's what I was just, that was for me.
Each building has their own safety plan.
Each building has a safety plan, they have roles, and then they have backups for those roles.
The response teams and
And then on page 8, that was just a question. On page 8, under intrusions, the one on the bottom, how come we don't have any mention of notifying security when there's an intruder in the building? Page 8, the very bottom. Because I even think you should notify security before the principal.
that's a 9. We have it on 9.
Well, it was
Intrusions what?
reprinted. It was reprinted effective July 1, and then the original one was draft.
Yeah, you know where I think you're covered? So I think we're covered where it says
Because
principal.
the pages, not to interrupt you, Donna, the pages are gonna be one off, because we had 2. One became effective July 1, and
Yes.
one was a draft. So I went to the newer one.
Okay.
But I have the pages on the old one, if you'd rather use the old one.
I have the July 1.
Yeah, one says draft in parentheses at the end, one doesn't. I was just wondering, they didn't mention security guard or anything.
I mean, technically, what I would, you could say we have, you call them main entrance monitors, everybody has security guards now. So,
No, I was just saying, because that was our protocol,
Right.
security before.
Correct.
You want to make the change?
No,
Well,
I'm just more of a question.
yeah, well, the only difference, I think, in the secondary buildings, it goes over the radio, so then the principal hears it as well. I mean, the security guard hears it as well. Anybody, we have,
So like we had a special code.
Right.
For when there was an intruder, like if I encountered an intruder, so the intruder didn't know,
Yeah,
I had a code.
we got rid of special codes years ago because when you have so much turnover, the codes kind of get confused.
All by the
There's-
wayside. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they used to be like
Yeah.
code red, code blue.
Oh, not like that, we
Yeah.
had like a word.
Then you're
Yeah.
running around like
I have a
confused.
live one, yeah, something like that, something like that.
Do you want to change that verbiage to security guards because that's what you have now?
Or
Sure.
included if the security guard's in there for sure somehow.
Or security, you don't even say security guard.
Yeah, you only
security.
have to put security, I think. Main entrance security.
You're looking at a different part than I think Don was talking.
Intrusions you're doing.
Yeah,
It's just on number, it's on
On
page
page-
9.
that's the old one.
Yeah, that's the old one.
Page 8 is the new one.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but it's the same section.
Right.
I said, but I have the old pages too, if you rather. They're one off, that's all. If I say 8, it's 9 in the old. All right, so we're gonna add security.
And work.
No, it should be that.
Instead of.
Okay, then on,
Intentional.
and then on page 9, page 10 on the old one, page 9 on the new one. I just think the delineation should be improved for the abduction or missing student. You see where you have the doorings? There's a dooring, and then there's a bunch of stuff, then there's another dooring, and then a bunch of stuff. So you either have to put in like a Roman numeral
Yep,
1,
I see what you're
and
saying.
the stars, Roman numeral 2, or you have to change the bullet points, however you prefer to do it, you know
Or
what I'm saying?
take out the bullet point.
Well, then you
here.
would need a Roman numeral
Make
1
it-
next to the first dooring, Roman numeral 2 next to the second dooring in the middle of the page. You see what I'm saying? And then you would have Roman numeral 3 at the bottom, after school hours, with that kind of thing. I'm saying otherwise it was all jumbled. You need better delineation, really, that's all. Either change the bullet points, or you can indent, or you can indent the subsets, whatever's easier. You know, it doesn't.
I think Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3 is
Okay.
good.
All right.
That's a good way of classifying each section.
Yeah, or even taking the bullet point out of the front of it and then. like
Yes,
bolding-
exactly, that's what
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what
gonna
I'm
say.
saying, just
Yeah.
Yeah,
leave
very
it out.
good.
Yeah,
That's why I had
Making
the
it more of
law
a
first.
paragraph
yeah.
with a subset on the,
Underneath, yeah.
on the below it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what I mean, I had all that
It definitely
crossed
flows
out,
better.
but I figured it was up to you what you'd rather
That's
have,
a good idea.
Okay,
otherwise it didn't read right. And page 13, I don't know, did we want to add internet threat? And now you have all these subsets and you have implied or direct threat of violence. Do we need to add like a separate internet threat or not really? Since it was under technological hazards, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I didn't know if we wanted to, since we had violence and acts of violence.
so what would you call it?
No, it was, again, a question. Unless you think it's
Well,
covered
I
by
think
the
it's covered.
threats.
I think it's
Okay.
covered by implied and direct or
Okay.
really implied to an act.
Well, I didn't know whether you wanted
Yeah.
to make it, you know, with everything that's been happening, if you wanted a separate, more forceful.
Yeah, I think it's implied in the first one.
Okay,
in this one.
all right.
Or should you put like something like, however transmitted? Whatever source transmitted? Phone,
Electronic.
internet. Skywriter.
You want to make it its own subset?
I think you want to keep it more.
Okay, we do
Less
generic.
word- less wording.
Yeah, no, just, that's what I'm saying. And then did you want where it says use of staff trained? Did you want in de-escalation techniques? Like, are you talking about the staff that's trained?
Wait,
Or are you
where are
talking
we?
Where
about
are you?
Where,
The first bullet.
first
point
one?
implies
under
another.
implied, or direct threats of violence?
use of staff,
Trained
In, yeah.
in, yes, in.
Otherwise, you didn't know whether you were talking
Yes.
about the techniques
in.
or the staff.
yeah. Okay,
That's it on that one.
I have a
Okay.
question on page 10.
go ahead.
In light of everything that we know now, should we say more about epidemic pandemic?
So we do have a separate pandemic plan.
Well, you
We
have
could do-
pandemic at the top of page 10.
Yeah, and it just says identify the problem.
Okay.
Jerry, really?
Jerry, you know what I can do?
You could say
It's
see
in- I can
policy
add a new bullet and say follow schools pandemic
Response, yeah.
response
response,
plan.
yeah.
Because we do have one that we've updated since the,
You can have it.
No, I don't think these were approved, so I think we'll have to do a second reading at the
Okay.
open meeting.
Okay, I'll take, let me get that
Yeah.
one.
And does everyone have the student harassment and bullying prevention one, 0115? Because I don't know, I have my own packet, I didn't look at the new packet.
I don't have it on me,
I don't have.
I don't have it on me, no.
I know, right, because I have my own packet, all right, so that could be another, it's just I could just email that.
okay.
Okay,
Because it was left, two things were left out. And one paragraph had it, the other one didn't, so I'll email that one.
Yeah, just grammatically.
No, it wasn't
Yeah.
dramatic, it was missing, I'll just email
all right. And are you good?
it.
Anybody? No?
Good job, Don.
Nobody has any additional? Yes, good job, Tom.
Well, I'd like to call to go to exec if we,
I'd like to say, were you speaking?
Done, done.
I wanted to thank Elliot because she fit tested all of our school nurses for N95 masks and actually provided all of them masks, and pretty proud she did that for us. It's very important, make sure we're in compliance.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
My
Donna.
pleasure, my pleasure always.
See working, I must say.
What?
Yeah, for once, right?
What, do you mean that it's rare?
No,
I think she's implying that it was rare.
That came out so wrong.
Did you take the pen? What? Did you take
In my
my
In my zone? Yeah.
Was she like gowned up and everything?
No, she pulled I pulled
Yeah,
because
earrings
the
on.
nurses had to wear these yellow hoods, and gone over spray something bitter in the hood and to see if they could smell it or taste it through their mask, to make sure everything was properly fit on them, and it's quite a process, so. I think that's.
You should take a picture. I want to see
Thank
Donna in
you.
the full hazmat.
It's really my pleasure to have done that. We're a team, and that's how we're gonna get through this. So thank you though for the kind words. Yeah, it was really cool to be here and do the job that I've been doing and do it for our people, who you know for so many years, but it was good. Thank you. Anybody have any input other than? If you have any additional thoughts, let's get some emails to Jim, all right? And then CC the rest of the board on it, for any other communications on the policies, okay? All right, so Chris, you wanted to convene in exec? Okay, so we need a motion for that, yep, so.
I just want to say one thing before we close it. I want to thank Jim and our assistant superintendents for doing such a great job. I'm hearing a lot of great things, and people seem that you put them at ease, and they know you're trying really hard, and that you're on their side.
Good job, leader. Okay, may I have a motion to go into exec?
I'll make it.
Thank you, Al. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Donna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. So we're going into exec. Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
community.